A millionaire thought it was just one night, but a virgin gave him something he never knew he needed. The night was quiet, except for the steady rhythm of waves crashing against the rocky cliffs on the southern coast of California. A woman walked barefoot along the edge of the shoreline, stumbling, her long hair tangled in the wind. A bottle slipped from her hand and shattered against the damp stone. That woman was Sophia Walker, once the envy of Los Angeles, beautiful, wealthy, and weeks away from marrying the man everyone called perfect. But tonight, she was nothing more than a broken soul. Why the two of you?" she whispered, her voice cracking, eyes swollen from tears that refused to stop. Just hours ago, she had walked in on her fiancé Ryan, entangled with her best friend Chloe in their upscale penthouse apartment. She didn't need explanations. The truth was right there in front of her. The betrayal, the lies, the months of pretending. Ryan, her college sweetheart. Chloe, her sister in all but blood. There was no one left, no trust, no hope, no reason to keep breathing. Sophia stepped into the sea. The waves nipped at her ankles, cold and unwelcoming. Her silk dress clung to her body, soaked and heavy. She wasn't crying anymore. Her tears had dried. What remained was a hollow silence inside her chest, an aching nothingness. "I can't do this anymore," she said, louder this time. Her voice broke. "You betrayed me. You destroyed me. I won't forgive you, not in this life, or the next." The waves rose stronger now, crashing against her legs as she moved deeper into the water. Her body began to float, arms wide open, eyes staring up into the dark, starless sky. She let go, surrendered herself to the pull of the tide. The cold wind, the alcohol, the heartbreak, all merged into one numbing lullaby. In the blur of half-sleep, she remembered Ryan's voice. "I'll protect you, always." The memory sliced deeper than any wave could. She didn't know how long she drifted. Minutes? Hours? Time disappeared. Sophia slipped into unconsciousness, her body weightless on the open water. Whether she was dying or merely asleep, she didn't care anymore. In that moment, perhaps death was the only mercy left. The sun hadn't risen yet. A soft silver glow hung over the waters of Seabrook Island, and the sea was calm, the early morning breeze drifting over gentle waves, carrying the scent of salt and damp wood from an old fishing boat slowly turning toward the dock. Caleb Monroe, a local carpenter and part-time fisherman, sat at the edge of the boat with several buckets of fresh catch after a fruitful night at sea. He was mentally making a to-do list, patching up Ms. Delaney's broken porch before noon, when something caught his eye near the mouth of the bay. Floating. He narrowed his eyes, slowing the engine. "A log?" he murmured. But as his boat drew closer and the object came into focus under the deck light, he quickly flicked on. Caleb froze. A woman. She was face up, limbs limp, her soaked dress clinging to her body. Long hair tangled with strands of seaweed. A shiver ran down his spine. But instinct overruled hesitation. He plunged into the water. She was breathing, barely, but alive. Caleb carefully lifted her into his arms, cradling her as he waded back to the boat. She reeked of alcohol, drunk, drenched, broken. "What the hell happened to you?" he whispered, gently laying her onto a folded tarp near the side of the boat. He turned the boat back toward shore. The first hint of sunlight streaked across the horizon as he reached the dock. Without thinking twice, he scooped her up again and made his way toward a small wooden house that stood at the edge of the village, his home shared with his mother, Rosa Monroe. "Caleb? Good Lord! Who is she?" Rosa gasped as she opened the door to find her son carrying an unconscious woman. "I found her floating in the bay. She's alive. Just drunk, I think." Caleb replied, eyes still on the woman in his arms. "Lay her on the bed. I'll take care of her." Caleb nodded, lowering her gently onto the spare cot. Rosa began drying her off, changing her into clean clothes, concern and curiosity dancing in her weathered eyes. She didn't look like someone from around here. Her skin was porcelain, her hands soft, nails manicured. Her face was delicate, striking, a beauty not native to this rustic world. She was like a message in a bottle, washed up from another life. Caleb stood in the doorway, watching her one last time before stepping outside. He didn't know who she was, or what storm had led her to his island. But he had a feeling. His quiet world was about to change. When Sophia opened her eyes, the morning sun streamed softly through sheer white curtains. The scent of fresh wood, herbal tea, and distant seagulls created an unfamiliar but oddly peaceful atmosphere. She sat up abruptly, eyes scanning the small wooden room. This wasn't a hotel, and it definitely wasn't her apartment. She remembered the ocean, the alcohol, Ryan, Chloe, the pain. Then, a man. Warm brown eyes, strong arms pulling her out of death. She was about to get up when the door creaked open. "You're awake." Caleb stood in the doorway, holding a glass of water. "Do you need anything?" Sophia frowned, instinctively guarded. "Where am I?" "My house," he replied. "I found you out at sea. Lucky I was fishing early." "You saved me?" she asked, voice distant. Caleb gave a short nod. "I don't know if you'd call it saving, but you're still breathing." A beat of silence passed. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Sophia," she replied quietly, as if even saying it drained her. He nodded. "I'm Caleb. Welcome to Seabrook." She planned to leave that very afternoon, but when she stepped outside, she quickly realized she had no idea where Seabrook even was, or how to get off the island. Her phone had no signal. And Caleb. He was strangely calm about it all. That was when a sharp-eyed woman walked by. Amanda, Caleb's ex. She gave Sophia a once-over and smirked. "So, you're the girl who washed up on the shore? How interesting." Sophia held her tongue. Amanda's smile was full of meaning, none of it kind. Caleb quietly stepped beside Sophia. "She's actually why I need to ask you something." She turned to him, wary. "What?" "Pretend to be my girlfriend." "What?" "Just for a while," he said with a straight face. "Let her think I've moved on. Let the village see I'm doing fine." Sophia stared at him. "You dragged me out of the ocean to pull me into some childish dating game?" "You don't owe me anything," he said, shrugging. "But if you're stuck here for now, you can stay with us a little longer. In return, just a few handholds. A smile or two, nothing crazy." She looked around. A small island, no way off, no direction to go. She had already lost everything, and truthfully, the idea didn't sound half bad. "Fine," she muttered, "but it's fake, got it?" Caleb gave a crooked grin. Crystal clear. Sophia agreed, not because she trusted Caleb or needed a place to stay. She agreed because her heart was too tired to care what was right or wrong. And above all, she wanted to get back at life. If she couldn't have real love, then she'd play the part flawlessly. Within a day, the village buzzed with whispers. "Caleb has a new girlfriend." Where did she come from? Is she the girl he rescued? Murmurs filled the morning market, the diner, the fishing docks. Under all those watchful eyes, Sophia walked beside Caleb, her hand in his as if it belonged there. She learned to smile just enough, nod politely at the right moments. It was all a performance. But strangely, she found herself playing it better than she expected. Rosa, the mother who once seemed cautious around the mysterious girl, had become the warmest observer. She didn't say much, but the gentle look in her eyes said everything. She accepted Sophia. And perhaps she even hoped. Sophia began to realize, even if it all began as a lie, something inside her was starting to feel real. In the days that followed, Sophia's life on Seabrook Island became strangely comforting. Mornings on Seabrook Island always began with the sound of waves brushing against the shore, the soft splash of oars, and the faint scent of coffee that Rosa brewed before the sun fully rose. Sophia had grown used to waking up in the little wooden room, breeze drifting through the window, and Caleb's voice calling from the backyard. "Want to try carving today?" At first, she would just roll her eyes at the offer. But slowly, she learned to hold a saw, use a chisel, and spend hours sanding planks under Caleb's quiet guidance. Together, they built a simple bench, rough but solid. He said, "Your first piece is never perfect, but it still matters, like the first time you try again at being yourself." Sophia didn't reply, but her gaze softened. In this simple world, no one mocked her when she messed up, when she stayed quiet, or when she got sad. Caleb didn't ask too much, didn't pry, didn't pity. He was just there, steady, patient, warm. Every afternoon after the workshop, Caleb took her out to sea in his small boat. "You need to learn to row. The sea here is gentle, but never to be underestimated." On her first try, she spun the boat in circles. They laughed, soaked and breathless, but no one got annoyed. She learned quickly, not from talent, but because being near Caleb made her feel alive. One day, rain caught them off guard in a quiet cove. Caleb tossed her a tarp, sat beside her, and shared a dry piece of bread. No words, just the rain and silence between them. "Why don't you ever leave this island?" she asked. He answered gently, "Because here everyone knows my name, and no one expects me to be anyone but myself." Rosa taught her how to cook. Though Sophia had grown up with chefs, here she learned to rinse rice with her hands, light a fire from scratch, and season soup by taste. She made mistakes, spilled things, burned toast, but dinner quickly became her favorite part of the day. It wasn't just food, it was laughter. It was being part of something. One evening after supper, Caleb said, "The moon's out. Want to stargaze with me?" They lay on an old blanket in the yard, hands behind their heads, gazing up at the endless sky. The air was cool, no car horns, no city noise, just waves and distant crickets. "Do you believe in fate?" Sophia asked. Caleb nodded. "Some things come at the wrong time, but with the right person." "So, do you think we're fate?" He turned to look at her. "I don't know, but since you came here, I haven't felt alone." Silence. Everything stilled for a moment. Their eyes met, close enough that one small shift would bring lips together. Sophia closed her eyes, then opened them again. She turned onto her side, facing away. Caleb stayed still. That tiny distance still wasn't ready to be crossed. But in that almost kiss, they both knew. Something had changed. It wasn't pretend anymore. It was real. But beneath the sweetness of golden afternoons, the comfort of familiar laughter, and the illusion of peace, an unsettling truth was quietly making its way to the surface. A long-buried secret was about to shatter everything. The next morning, Sophia left the island. She had to face the truth, and face her father. Inside a sleek, glass-walled office in downtown Los Angeles, she stood across from Richard Walker, the man she had once idolized. His surprise at seeing her was genuine. "Sophia, when did you get back?" "What are you doing to Seabrook?" she asked, straight to the point. Richard hesitated, then answered coolly, "It's a business decision, a development opportunity. That island has no future." "No future for who, Dad? For the villagers? Or for the daughter you didn't want knowing the truth?" "Sophia, you're taking away their homes, their history, their lives, including someone I love." Richard stiffened. "You fell for someone there?" "Yes, and his father died because he refused to sell land to the people your men sent." Her voice cracked. "Did you know that?" He didn't reply. The silence said everything. That night, Sophia returned to Seabrook. She didn't explain her absence. She simply sat beside Caleb in the backyard, like she'd never left. Caleb didn't speak, just stared into the night. "Are you angry with me?" she asked. "No," he said. "I just don't know what you'll choose. I used to think blood was everything, but now I see some things are worth more than that." Caleb turned to her. This time his gaze softened, but the worry remained because ahead of them was a battle waiting to begin. That night, Sophia didn't sleep. She sat motionless on the porch, eyes fixed on the distant horizon where the sea melted into the ink-black sky. Inside her chest, everything was splitting in two. On one side was the man who had raised her, given her everything: life, protection, status. A father she once idolized as the very image of reason and morality. On the other, the man who had pulled her back from the edge, the man who asked for nothing, judged nothing, simply stayed. Who taught her how to live again, how to laugh, to hope, to love. How could she choose? Sophia buried her face in her hands. She once believed love was a private thing, a matter of the heart, untouched by the outside world. But now her love stood at the center of two worlds, and one of them would have to break. If she stood with Caleb, she'd turn her back on her father, and not just a father, but her past, her name, the life she was raised to inherit. But if she sided with family, she'd abandon her heart. She'd leave behind the one person who had ever shown her unconditional kindness. For the first time in her life, Sophia felt utterly alone. Love was never meant to be a decision. But now it was the hardest one she'd ever have to make. And she never expected. Life wouldn't wait for her to decide. The storm came too fast, and the price of loving with all her heart was more than anyone could have foreseen. A ship horn blared in the distance. The air over Seabrook Island grew heavy, thick with the feeling that something was about to happen. Sophia stood on Caleb's porch, clutching the envelope just delivered. She didn't need to open it to know. The official eviction order, effective immediately. "He really went through with it," she whispered, her voice trembling. Caleb approached from across the yard. He saw her face and froze. "It's him?" Sophia nodded, barely able to speak. "They're coming today." Engines roared. Boots hit the ground. Voices shouted. The once quiet village was suddenly a war zone. Men in black suits, flanked by security personnel, marched through the fishing village, tearing down signs and roping off property. Richard Walker stepped out of a black SUV, his expression unreadable. Sophia stood in his path, blocking the gate to the village. "You can't do this," she said firmly. He didn't reply immediately. He looked at her long and hard, exhaustion etched in every line of his face. "This isn't personal, Sophia. It's business." "I'm not a business deal, Dad. And this isn't just land. It's their home." Behind her, villagers gathered. Caleb stepped up beside her, eyes burning. "You should stop before this goes any further." Richard clenched his fists, about to respond, when a shrill voice pierced the air. "She doesn't belong here!" Amanda appeared, hands shaking, a small pistol drawn from her coat. Her face twisted with rage, her eyes glassy. "I lost you because of her. You think she can just waltz in here, act pure, and take everything?" "What are you doing? Amanda, put it down!" Caleb shouted, stepping forward, arms out. "Stay back!" she screamed. And then the gun went off, a sharp crack. Sophia screamed. Caleb collapsed. Blood spread across his shirt as he hit the ground. "Caleb!" she cried, dropping to her knees beside him, pressing her hands to his chest. "No, no, no, stay with me." Blood, screams, chaos. Amanda was restrained, but Sophia couldn't hear anything. She could only see Caleb, eyes dimming, lips moving with words she couldn't catch. Richard rushed forward, his face pale. Caleb lay motionless on the ground, blood seeping through his shirt, spreading slowly across the dirt. The world around them froze. The only sound Sophia could hear was the thunder of her own heart pounding in her chest. She dropped to her knees beside him, hands trembling as she pressed against the wound. "No, no, no. Don't close your eyes. Not now," she sobbed, tears mixing with the blood on her fingers. She spun around, eyes wild, locking onto her father. "Dad, please, you have to save him." Richard stood just a few steps away, stunned by the shot. His face had gone pale, his expression shaken. "Sophia? This isn't business. It's not land or contracts, it's someone's life," she screamed, her voice echoing through the chaos. She cradled Caleb, pressing his face close to her chest. "He's the first person who taught me how to love, to live, to believe again. You can lose this deal, Dad. But if I lose him, you'll lose me." Richard didn't move. He just stared at his daughter, hair disheveled, clothes stained in blood, eyes filled with a kind of grief he had never seen in her before. She wasn't the composed woman from boardrooms. She wasn't the polished heiress of Walker Holdings. She was just a woman shattered by love. And for the first time, something in Richard cracked. Without another word, he pulled out his phone, turned to his assistant, and said, "Get a medevac, now, whatever it takes." Sophia broke down, sobbing, but this time it was a cry laced with hope. An hour later, Caleb was airlifted to a hospital. Sophia rode beside him, her hand wrapped tightly around his, whispering over and over, "You'll be okay. I'm right here." Richard stood behind, alone among the villagers. No more shouting, just quiet stares. For the first time in his life he felt small, and for the first time he realized there are some things money can't buy, not even the love of his own daughter. The surgery lasted nearly 8 hours. Sophia sat slumped outside the ICU, hands stained with dried blood, heart clenched so tightly it hurt to breathe. Finally, the doors opened. The doctor stepped out, removing his mask. "He made it. The bullet missed his heart. We got it out in time." She collapsed into the chair behind her. No more tears, just a long, shaking exhale like her soul had been returned to her body. Caleb woke the next morning. Sophia was already at his bedside, dark circles under her eyes from sleepless nights. He looked at her for a long moment, then offered a weak smile. "You're still here?" "You thought I'd leave?" she whispered, gripping his hand as tears slid silently down her cheeks. "You saved me. Now it's my turn to stay." He gently squeezed her hand, but his eyes drifted away. "You should go home, Sophia. This is home." "It's not," he said softly but firmly. "You don't belong here. You have your own world, your projects, your parties, your city lights. I have nothing to offer you." "You have my heart." Her voice cracked. He turned his face away. "And that's exactly why I can't keep you. You deserve a bigger life, not to be tied down to a small fishing village with someone like me, someone who nearly died from a foolish choice." "Don't say that," she whispered. "Love isn't about reasons or status. I don't care about any of that." "But I do," Caleb cut in. "Every time I look at you, all I see is how little I have to give. I can't be the reason you shrink your life down. I love you too much to trap you." Sophia fell silent, her heart shattered. "So, you want me to leave?" Caleb closed his eyes and nodded, softly, but it felt like a blade. 2 days later, Sophia left the hospital. As she stepped into the car that would take her back to the city, she looked back at the place where her heart had come alive again. Rosa hugged her tightly. "You are part of this place now, you know." Sophia smiled through tears. "If one day I come back, Will it still be here? It's only gone if you stop wanting it, Rosa whispered. Caleb didn't come to say goodbye. He stood at the second-floor window, watching the car disappear down the dirt road. In his hand was the note she left behind. I'm not leaving because I want to. I'm leaving because you told me to. But my heart is still here. He clutched the paper tight, closed his eyes. Inside him was a quiet ache, and the faintest, trembling hope he didn't dare believe in. The car rolled slowly away from Seabrook Village. Sophia glanced back through the window, eyes fixed on the small wooden house where she had once rediscovered the taste of silence, safety, and second chances. It was where everything began, and maybe, just maybe, not where it ended. Rosa stood by the gate, hand raised in a gentle wave. The villagers, the same ones who had once eyed her with suspicion, now stood quietly, heads bowed. No one spoke, but Sophia felt it deeply. She had become part of them, if only for a brief moment. Time passed, and the wounds of the heart slowly healed, but the memories by that old wooden dock never faded. Though miles apart, their hearts kept beating for the same place, where love first began. And then, one day, fate gave them a second chance. 1 year had passed since Sophia left Seabrook Island, and in that time, much had changed, not just within her, but on the island itself. Caleb, after the incident, gradually recovered. With support from several nonprofit organizations and a scholarship quietly arranged by Sophia behind the scenes, he returned to an old dream: architecture. He enrolled in a short-term program at a design institute in San Francisco, then returned to Seabrook with a new purpose. No longer just a quiet carpenter, but a man with vision, to rebuild Seabrook with his own hands and heart. The worn-down homes were replaced with cozy wooden houses, built sustainably with solar panels and recycled materials. The village paths were repaved, keeping their winding charm but shaded with green trees. Every roof, every window carried Caleb's quiet touch of simplicity and elegance. The villagers didn't just stay. They began to dream again. Then, on a soft June afternoon, sunlight warm, sky clear, Sophia returned. As the boat docked at Seabrook, Sophia stood at the bow, gripping the strap of her bag tightly, eyes locked on the shore, as if one blink might cause it all to vanish like a dream. The sea was still blue, the wind gentle, the village quiet, just as she remembered. But what made her heart clench was the figure standing at the edge of the dock. Caleb? He didn't move toward her. He just stood there, tall and still, his shoulders slightly hunched, as if the wind itself was holding him back. But his eyes, those eyes hadn't changed. Sophia stepped off the boat. Every step she took felt like walking through all the months apart, all the nights she'd cried for the man who had pushed her away, even as he still loved her. They faced each other, only a few feet apart, but it felt like a lifetime. I didn't think you'd really come back, Caleb said, his voice lower, rougher than before. I've always been here, she replied softly, placing a hand gently over her chest. At least, a part of my heart never left you. Caleb held her gaze for a long moment. Then he closed his eyes, as if trying to stop his heart from bursting. I used to think that letting you go was the noble thing to do. But now I know. Real love isn't sacrifice. It's staying. It's showing up every damn day. Sophia didn't speak. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, and in that embrace, in the arms that once felt like a memory too fragile to hold again, every distance, every doubt, every heartbreak melted away. Caleb held her tighter. No words, just the beating of two hearts, once broken, now whole again in each other's rhythm. When they finally pulled back, Sophia's eyes were glistening, but she smiled. I'm home. Caleb nodded softly. And I'm never letting you go again. That night, the village held a small beach party to celebrate Sophia's return. Lanterns twinkled overhead, wooden tables were filled with simple food, toasted bread, grilled fish, red wine, yet the joy was richer than any luxury she had ever known. As the sun dipped low and painted the sea in gold, Caleb stepped onto a makeshift stage of old crates. Holding a microphone, his eyes searched for her. Someone came back, not just to this place, but to my heart. Silence fell. He stepped down and walked toward her, kneeling in the sand, the same spot where he once nervously held her hand beneath the stars. In his hand was a small silver ring, simple, carved from the old oak wood of the house they once fixed together. "Sophia Walker, will you keep building this life with me, brick by brick, storm by storm, for the rest of our days?" Her tears fell, but this time they were joyful. "Yes," she whispered. And there, on the shores of Seabrook, the place that was once their beginning and their parting, became the home of a brand new chapter, one built on love, courage, and the belief that even broken hearts can be rebuilt stronger than ever before. From the moment their hearts found their way back to each other, everything else simply fell into place. No grand promises were needed, just a look, and they knew. They were exactly where they belonged. They held the wedding on a quiet October afternoon, golden sun above, sea breeze gentle, and the ocean calm, as if nature itself was blessing them. There were no chandeliers or extravagant gowns, just soft sand beneath their feet, the villagers they now called family, a string of lights Caleb had hung the night before, and a simple white dress Sophia chose not because it was fancy, but because it felt like her. Rosa walked Sophia down the beach, where Caleb stood waiting, holding a bundle of wild lavender. He looked at her as if time had stopped. No more distance, no more silent mornings apart, only now, a full, quiet, peaceful now. "I dreamed of this day," Caleb whispered when she stood before him. "And I..." Sophia smiled through tears. "I thought this only existed in dreams too big to dream." They exchanged rings, not diamonds or gold, but a pair Caleb had carved from the old oak tree beside their former house. Etched inside were 2 words, "Always home." After the wedding, they moved into a small wooden house by the sea, a home Caleb had designed and Sophia had chosen the paint for. Every morning, Caleb roasted fresh coffee while Sophia opened the windows wide to let in the sound of waves. There were no grand parties, no long business trips, just evenings on the porch counting stars, and the kind of hugs that made everything feel right again. Some would call it a simple life. To them, it wasn't just peace. It was redemption. A second chance given by time, earned through pain and held together by quiet love. And their love, like the ocean, vast, deep, and never needing to prove itself to be real.